A brown pony with a dark brown, curly mane and tail trotted gracefully through the streets of Ponyville. She wore a charming brown apron trimmed with white frills, and her mane was gathered into a curly side bun, secured with a matching brown ribbon. Her deep brown eyes sparkled with warmth, and a scattering of light brown freckles dotted her face. On her flank, her cutie mark, a steaming mug of hot cocoa filled with marshmallows and encircled by 3 cocoa beans, hinted at her sweet nature. A light brown saddlebag hugged her waist, adorned with a plastic cocoa bean clip that swayed as she walked. As she passed through the bustling town, she came to a halt at a cheerful flower stand run by Daisy, Rose, and Lily. Her eyes wandered over the vibrant blossoms before settling on a bouquet of light blue and red roses. Carefully selecting the bunch, she offered a few bits to Lily and asked in a polite voice, "Do any of you know where Derpy Hooves and her daughters live? I'm her mare friend from Philadelphia, and I came to see her." Lily pointed toward a cluster of nearby houses, and the brown mare gave a grateful nod. With the bouquet held delicately in her hoof, she turned and trotted in the indicated direction, her heart full of anticipation. Inside her cozy home, Derpy Hooves stood at the kitchen counter, stirring a bowl of muffin batter with practiced ease. Across from her, her young daughter Dinky Doo sat quietly, crayons scattered around her as she colored in her favorite book. The warm hum of their peaceful morning was interrupted by a sudden knock at the door. Derpy paused, set the bowl aside, and slipped off her pink apron patterned with white bubbles, laying it gently on the counter. "Wait here, Dinky," the gray Pegasus said with a smile. The lavender filly gave a quick nod and returned to her drawing, while Derpy trotted out of the kitchen, through the lounge, and over to the front door. She turned the knob and opened it, and instantly froze in delighted surprise. Standing there was a brown mare holding a bouquet of red and blue roses. Derpy blinked, her eyes widening before a huge, joyful grin spread across her face. "Coco," she squealed, practically leaping forward and wrapping the mare in a tight embrace, nearly knocking her over with the force of her excitement. "It's been such a long time. How have you been? What are you doing here? I thought you were busy running your chocolate factory." Derpy asked, eyes wide with excitement and disbelief. "I still have my chocolate factory," Coco replied with a warm smile. "But I'm on holiday for a month, so I decided to come here for my vacation, spend some time with you and your daughters." As Coco stepped inside, she glanced around the cozy home, taking in her surroundings before turning her gaze back to Derpy. "Where are Dinky Doo and Amethyst Star?" "Dinky's in the kitchen, coloring in a new book I got her last week," Derpy explained with a fond smile, stepping aside to let her mare friend in. Coco handed her the bouquet of roses, and Derpy gratefully accepted them. As for Amethyst Star, she's in Canterlot right now, studying advanced magic, just like her father, Shining Illusion. "Oh, that's wonderful," Coco said, beaming as she placed her saddlebag on a nearby chair. Without missing a beat, she trotted into the kitchen, eager to greet little Dinky Doo. Coco offered a warm wave to little Dinky Doo, who paused her coloring and returned the gesture with a polite, "Hi." Though the filly didn't say more at first, she kept her eyes and ears fixed on the two mares, sensing the shift in mood as the conversation began to turn serious. "Derpy, have you heard the news?" Coco asked, her voice lower now, tinged with concern and urgency. Derpy tilted her head, a look of mild confusion crossing her face. "What news?" she asked, her tone light but cautious. Before Coco could speak, Dinky's small voice cut in from the kitchen table. "I think Coco's talking about the disappearances, the ponies that have gone missing in Ponyville." Coco nodded gravely, eyes meeting the fillies for a brief second before turning back to Derpy. "Yes. That, and more. It's not just happening here. A young filly went missing in Manhattan 3 weeks ago. Vanished without a trace in the middle of the night. The police ponies searched everywhere but couldn't find a clue. Her family's devastated, and I heard her older sister, Sunflower Seed, was so terrified she packed up and left the city entirely. She's scared that she might be next." Derpy's expression twisted slightly, but she quickly forced it into something resembling sympathy. "That's just terrible," she said with a tight, practiced voice. "I really hope they find her, and the others too. My best friend, Lyra Heartstrings, went missing a month ago. One minute she was there, the next, nothing. Her mere friend, Bonbon, has barely left the house since. She's so scared she might be taken too. A few of us, her friends, have been making sure she has everything she needs, bringing her food and walking her to her doctor's appointments. She's afraid to even be alone for 5 minutes." Dinky glanced at her mother, then quickly added her own piece, lips pressed together in a careful attempt to mimic Derpy's tone. "Miss Cheerilee made us do stranger danger drills at school. After Bab Seed disappeared, and a few of the other foals too, she started teaching us how to react if a stranger comes near us. We even practice lockdowns now, just in case something bad happens while we're in class." Coco stood frozen for a moment, her breath catching. Her eyes darted between the mother and daughter, both of whom wore expressions of concern that didn't quite reach their eyes. A cold chill ran down her spine, and her legs trembled ever so slightly as the weight of the conversation sank in. "Oh no," she whispered, her voice shaky, barely louder than a breath. Her gaze dropped to the floor as a sick feeling began to bloom in her chest, the kind of fear that coils deep and doesn't let go at the thought of more fillies and colts disappearing too. "Don't worry, Coco," Derpy Hooves said softly, her voice gentle as she stepped closer and rested a comforting hoof on Coco's cheek. Her golden, crossed eyes locked onto her mare friend's gaze with a warmth that softened the tension in the room. "The police ponies will find them. And it's not just them working on it, Princess Twilight and the other princesses are helping with the investigation. I'm sure they'll bring every pony home safe and sound." Coco gave a faint nod, still shaken, her voice barely more than a whisper. "That's true. I hate thinking about it. All those ponies, especially the little ones." Derpy offered a small, reassuring smile and gave Coco's hoof a light squeeze. "Let's not dwell on it right now. You've just arrived, and I want you to relax. Come on, why don't you sit down while I finish these muffins?" She motioned toward the mixing bowl on the counter, already half full of batter, with an empty muffin tin waiting nearby. Coco nodded silently and walked over to the table, settling into the chair beside Dinky, who had returned to her coloring and was humming softly to herself as she filled a page with vibrant crayon strokes. Derpy trotted back to the counter, wings fluttering gently as she began stirring the batter once more. The scent of sugar and vanilla filled the kitchen, wrapping around them like a cozy blanket. As she worked, she hummed an old lullaby, something soothing and familiar, and Dinky joined in, their soft melody creating a gentle rhythm that calmed the space. Coco sat quietly at the table, her eyes unfocused as thoughts continued to stir beneath the surface. Despite the warmth of the kitchen and the comfort of being near Derpy again, a heaviness lingered in her chest. She looked toward the counter, watching her mare friend pour the batter into the muffin tray with practiced ease, her movements fluid and calm. "I really missed you, Derpy," Coco said suddenly, her voice breaking the silence. "It's been so long." Derpy looked up briefly, her expression touched with guilt and affection. "I missed you too, Coco. I'm sorry I didn't let you know I was moving. Everything happened so fast, between my job, helping out Bonbon after her mare friend gone missing, and taking care of my daughters, it just slipped through the cracks. I tried finding you," Coco said with a faint smile. "I stopped by your old place in Canterlot, but it was empty. No forwarding address, no note. For a minute I thought you might have moved to Cloudsdale. But then I remembered, Dinky and Amethyst Star would fall right through the clouds." Derpy Hooves then pulled on a pair of oven mitts, smiling lightly at her mare friend. "Yeah, moving to Cloudsdale would have been a disaster. I wanted a quiet place for us. Ponyville seemed like the right choice. Peaceful. Friendly. At least, it was." She carefully slid the tray of muffins into the oven, then turned back to Coco with a soft sigh. "But I should have told you. You deserve that much. Coco gave a small nod, the warmth returning to her eyes as she looked across the kitchen at Derpy. The scent of baking muffins filled the air, blending with the soft hum of Dinky's song and the comforting presence of home. For a moment, the fear and uncertainty melted away, replaced by something quieter. Something safe. As the days slipped by, Coco and Derpy Hooves found themselves spending more and more time together, rekindling the bond they had shared during their younger years. Their days were filled with simple joys, peaceful strolls through Ponyville Park under the golden afternoon sun, shared laughter over lunch at Sugar Cube Corner, and cozy dinners at quiet cafes tucked along the town's edge. Derpy always seemed to beam a little brighter with Coco by her side, and Coco, in turn, looked happier and more relaxed than she had in moons. But behind Derpy's gentle smiles and sweet giggles, something darker simmered beneath the surface. She knew she was neglecting her baking, well, a certain kind of baking. The special muffins, the ones no pony could ever know about, remained conspicuously absent from her kitchen. Her hooves itched to return to that part of her secret life, to slip down into the hidden basement beneath her home and continue her gruesome work. But she couldn't. Not while Coco was here. Not while the one pony she actually loved and trusted was living under the same roof. Because what would happen if Coco ever found out the truth? If she discovered that Derpy Hooves, the sweet, cross-eyed male mare every pony adored, was the very monster behind the string of unexplained disappearances across Equestria, if she saw the grim, blood-stained truth behind the smile, she would never look at her the same again. Coco would be horrified to learn that her own mare friend had been kidnapping innocent ponies, dragging them into a hidden chamber, and turning their bodies into ingredients for her signature muffins. Muffins that she had lovingly shared with neighbors. With friends. With Coco herself. The thought twisted like a knife in Derpy's stomach. She knew without a doubt that Coco, kind, honest Coco, wouldn't hesitate. She'd march straight to the authorities, report everything, and expose Derpy Hooves for what she truly was. Not a baker, not a loving partner, but a murderer hiding behind flour and frosting. So for now, Derpy played the role. She kissed Coco on the cheek, shared daffodil sandwiches and sparkling cider, and laughed at her jokes. But deep down, the darkness inside her stirred, growing more restless with each passing day. Luckily for Derpy Hooves, she wasn't alone in her secret work. Her daughter, Dinky Doo, helped her behind the scenes as her trusted accomplice, assisting with the baking, the kidnappings, and even the grim tasks that followed, all guided by their number system. However, Dinky was still just a filly. Though a unicorn, her magic wasn't yet strong enough to handle adult ponies, despite studying spells from books she had borrowed from Twilight Sparkle and the Ponyville Library. Understanding her limits, Derpy told her daughter to focus only on the fillies and colts for now, at least until Coco returned to Philadelphia. Then, things could resume as normal. Derpy Hooves and Coco Bean were enjoying a quiet afternoon in Ponyville Park, lounging on a picnic blanket beneath the warm sun. A light breeze rustled the trees as the two Maras shared snacks and soft conversation, the peaceful moment wrapped in laughter and comfort. But that calm was suddenly broken when Octavia Melody came running toward them, her hooves pounding against the grass. The usually composed earth pony looked frantic. Her light gray coat was slightly dusted with dirt, and her dark gray mane bounced messily as she ran. Her signature pink bow tie was slightly crooked, and worry filled her light purple eyes. Derpy Hooves. Octavia called out, her voice tight with urgency. Derpy immediately stood, her wings flaring instinctively. Octavia? What's the matter? It's Dr. Hooves, Octavia said, catching her breath. He's missing. No one's seen him in over 2 hours, and that's not like him. Derpy's crossed yellow eyes widened not out of fear for her friend, but because the name sent a jolt through her. She knew where Dr. Hooves was. I'll help look for him, Coco said without hesitation, standing up. That would be a huge help, Octavia replied with a grateful smile, then turned to Derpy expectantly. I'll help too, the gray Pegasus said quickly, masking her unease. I'll fly overhead and scan the area from the sky. With a nod, Octavia and Coco ran off to begin the search, their voices fading into the distance. Derpy Hooves took to the air, wings slicing through the wind, but instead of joining the search party, she angled away from town and headed straight for her house. She needed to talk to Dinky Doo. Now. In the dim light of the basement, the scent of blood was thick in the air. Dinky Doo stood over the mutilated body of Dr. Hooves, her small hooves stained red as she worked methodically to peel away skin and remove bone. She was focused, quiet, her magic guiding the scalpel with an eerie steadiness, until the sudden sound of hooves thundering down the stairs made her jump. The filly spun around just in time to see her mother's wide, crossed yellow eyes staring down at her from the base of the staircase. Fear and disbelief twisted Derpy Hooves' expression as she took in the gruesome scene, the headless, limbless torso of one of her oldest friends splayed across the blood-soaked table. Dinky, what have you done? Derpy gasped, her voice trembling with shock. Dinky's ears folded back. She blinked up at her mother, then glanced at the scalpel still hovering beside her before letting it drop. It clattered against the cement floor, splashing into a dark pool of blood. I was just doing what we always do, Mama, she said quietly, her voice barely above a whisper. Dr. Hooves' number came up. I know you told me to stick to fillies and colts, but I wanted to see if I could handle some pony bigger. Derpy's wings flared with panic. So you kidnapped him in broad daylight, she shrieked, rushing back up the stairs. The door above slammed shut a second later as she locked it, her hooves pounding as she returned to her daughter. Dinky Ditsy Doo, some pony could have seen you. If word gets out, any pony talks, this whole thing falls apart. But I didn't kidnap him, Dinky said quickly, her yellow eyes wide with urgency. I lured him. Derpy froze in place. Her breathing slowed. You lured him, she asked, the words coming out in a low, slow, uneasy whisper. Dinky nodded. I found him at the market. He was just walking around, so I asked him if he could help me with my homework. He smiled and said yes. I brought him here, told him we'd be studying in the basement. Derpy's heart pounded in her chest as she tried to process the risk her daughter had taken. Dinky, that was so dangerous, she said, her voice rising again, but this time from fear, not anger. Some pony could have seen you with him. And when the police ponies start investigating, they'll ask around. If any pony remembers seeing you with the doctor, they'll come for you. They'll interrogate you. Dinky's confidence cracked. Her eyes welled with tears as she looked away, shame settling over her like a heavy blanket. I'm sorry, Mama, she murmured. I wasn't thinking. I wanted to impress you. Derpy Hooves let out a slow, weary sigh and stepped forward, wrapping her forelegs around her daughter in a firm embrace. The motion left streaks of deep crimson across her pale gray chest fur, but she didn't flinch. Blood was the least of her concerns now. She gently stroked Dinky's lavender mane, her voice soft and steady. You need to be more careful next time, sweetheart, Derpy murmured. Something like this needs planning. You should have stuck to fillies and colts your age, like I told you. But her voice trailed off as she turned toward the table. Dr. Hooves' body lay still, stripped of limbs and skin, a pool of blood congealing beneath him. Derpy studied the work with a critical eye, then smiled. Regardless, you did a very impressive job handling him on your own. Dinky's eyes lit up, ears perking. Really, Mama? Really, Derpy said with a proud grin. Tell me, how did you manage to subdue him enough to break his spine or restrain him? A simple sleeping spell, Dinky answered, straightening with pride. I found it in one of Twilight's spell books. As soon as I got him down here, I hit him with it, clean and fast. Once he was out, I used the scalpel to cut his throat so the blood would drain properly before I started the prep. Derpy let out a low, amused chuckle. That explains the puddle spreading under the table. You're learning quickly. She gave her daughter an approving nuzzle, then turned back to the body. Alright, let's finish deboning him and get the muffins in the oven before Coco comes back. We don't want to raise suspicion. Dinky nodded, and together, the mother and daughter returned to their grim task with practiced ease. But 2 hours earlier, in the hustle of Ponyville's market square, a unicorn mare had watched from afar. Her caramel eyes narrowed as she observed the young filly approach Dr. Hooves and lead him away with innocent charm. Hidden behind a vendor stall, the unicorn levitated a notebook from her saddlebag, her pencil scribbling swift notes as it hovered in her violet magical aura. She didn't interfere. But after a few final words written on the page, she quietly turned and trotted off in the opposite direction, disappearing into the crowd.